In this video, we are going to create a rock, paper, scissors game. How it works is there are two sections. In one section, users select one of the icons and at the same time, computer selects one of the icons from this section. And based on these algorithms that is given here, that is scissor cuts paper, paper covers rock, and rock crushes the scissor. We declare a winner and the result is shown here. For displaying the icons, I'm using Font Awesome. You can get more information here. So I have already created the static HTML. It is not doing anything when you click on any of it. Using JavaScript will make it dynamic. So let's have a look at our HTML, how it looks. So both the section user and computer is defined by two divs, div of class user and another one div of class computer. Both the divs contain a UL element inside which we are displaying multiple LI and each LI is responsible for displaying one icon. Same is the case with computer. Here we have a div with class of result, that is where we are displaying the result. So let's start working with our JavaScript to make it dynamic. So first thing we are going to work on is to make this static layout into dynamic by creating HTML using JavaScript. Because here we are writing three LIs and we are repeating ourselves. So to do that, we'll select user root and computer root. And both are this UL element. That is where we are going to put the HTML created by JavaScript. So I'll delete this. And this is going to be our user root and this one is our computer root. I'm not deleting this, I'll delete it later on. So right now if you look into it, you'll see that the icons for user is gone. Now, if you look at these icons, you will find that they are all very similar. The only difference is in the name of the class we are using. So here it is hand rock, here it is hand paper, and here it is hand scissors. So we'll create our dataset. So we'll say let dataset. We are going to store the data in array because we are storing similar kind of data. And each icon will have two properties. Right now, the first one will be the name of the icon, that is rock. And we are also going to use the algorithm through which it defines who with whom. And the algorithm here is this one. I'll just copy this and paste it here. So based on that, we can create our dataset. So here if we see rock is the name of the icon, rock bits scissor. So here I'll also have a property called bits. And rock is going to bit scissor. Similarly, and paper covers rock, so paper will bit. I am defining this right now so we don't have to overcomplicate it later on. So here dataset is an array of different icon information. Each icon has information of name and which icon bits another icon, the name of the icon. So we have got our dataset. Now what we need to do is using JavaScript we have to create this layout. So what we can do is create a function called create user layout, and using this data we have to create the layout here. And to create this kind of a layout we will have to create a structure like this for each icon. So I'll just paste it here just for the reference and comment it. So here to create this layout, first thing we need is to create li element and I element. So we'll say let li is equal to create element, and here we want to create a li element. Similarly, we will be creating a I element and storing that in a variable named I. I element needs to have a class of this. So for that we'll say I dot class name, and that will be this thing. But important thing to notice is we have to create three icons one after another. So obviously when we are repeating ourselves, we will be using some kind of loop. And here the data is array, so why not use for each? So we'll say for each, it will give me access to one icon, and for each icon we need to create this thing. And here instead of rock, we'll be saying whatever is the name of the icon, that is icon.name should be here. So in this way, we are creating three LIs. Next, what we need to do is to create this structure is to put this I element inside the li element. For that, we'll use li.append the I element. So we have added our I element inside li. Now what we need to do? We need to put this li into our root element. And our root element is this section ul here. So one after another, the li will be pushed into this. so we can see the UI. So we'll say user root dot append RLIL. So this should create the UI that we are looking for. Call it. Refresh it and we can see our UI here. So the first one here is rock, we have Caesar and we have pepper. So similarly, what we are going to do is to do the same thing, but this time we will be doing it for computer icons. I'll delete this part and I'll copy and paste the same thing here. I'll delete this comment also, it's not needed anymore. And instead of calling it create user layout, we'll say create computer layout. We'll for each over dataset, we'll create li, we'll create I element, we'll I inside li. And instead of putting it to user root, we'll put it to computer root. And instead of calling create user layout, we'll say create computer layout. So I'll just comment this call function here just to see that nothing is visible here. And as soon as we call this function, we should see the same structure that we're seeing here. The sequence of rock, Caesar, and pepper is decided by this one. So first is rock, second is Caesar. If we change this and move it down, then we can see it will change also rock, paper, and Caesar. So it's easier to say. So we are done creating our layout and we are creating it dynamically. Able to complete the first part of our rock, paper, Caesar game, that is dynamically creating the UI for user and for computer. We'll move on to the next part. In our next part, we will be handling user input, clicking on any of the icons and generating a random icons from computer. So for that, we will need some variables. So we'll define two variables, that is user selected and computer selected. So now we have two variables. After creating the variables, we need to update them whenever user clicks on any of these icons. So for that, we'll come create user layout and add an event listener on li element by saying add event listener of type click, and when that happens, you need to call this function. Inside this function, the first thing we need to do is to update the user selected. So we'll say user selected should be equal to the icon I'm getting right now. So let's see if it is working or not. Refresh it, click on any other icon and just look at user selected. So user is selected now. Next is, as soon as user is selected, you have to generate a random icon and store it in computer selected variable. For that, we need to generate a random number from 0 to 2 and access it from here. So let's just do it. So we'll create a function named getRandomNumber that accepts a parameter that is max value and return. So to generate a random number, we use math.random function. It gives us a number from 0 to 1. We'll multiply it with max and at last we'll just say math.floor to make it round number. For this use case, let's just default it to 3. So we don't have to always call it with parameter. Here we have updated the user selected variable and now we need to update computer selected. So computer selected, for that we need a random number. So we'll say get random number and it will give us random number from 0 to 2. And randomly we just have to select any of the icon from here. So for that we'll say dataset. So dataset is an array and get random number will give us a number from 0 to 2. So in this way, the user is selected and computer selected is also updated. So here, as soon as that happens, let's just say console.log user selected and computer selected. Click on any of the icon and we can see this is user selected and this is computer selected. So both the things are working properly. The only thing that is not working for us right now is any visual impression that can say that which icon is selected. And for that case, I've already added a class named selected. We just have to add to li. So let's go ahead and do that. So here we'll say if user selected, because we are dealing with user in this function, dot name is equal to the icon I'm seeing here, that is icon dot name, then in that case you have to add li dot class list dot add, we have to add a selected class name. Similarly, we'll do the same thing here in this case. Now let's see if it is working or not. So here it is throwing an error, cannot read the property name of undefined, and the reason for that is because user selected and computer selected in the start is not an object. So let's just default it to an empty object, because later on the value of both this variable is going to be an object. So it will fix the error. So it has already fixed the error. Let's see if it is working or not. The things are selected but it is not showing, and the reason because this function is not getting called again. So what we need to do, as soon as we have updated our user selected and computer selected, we have to recall that function, that is create computer layout, along with that create user layout. Click on any of it and you can see that it is selected. But the problem that is happening is the append is happening multiple times. So if you look at the UI, how we are working on it is this function is getting called multiple times and it is appending again and again. Simplest way to fix it is by saying user root dot inner HTML. So I'll just reset the inner HTML to empty string. Here the user root should be empty and here computer root should be empty. So clicking on any icon, we can see that here it shows rock and paper, but it is rock and rock. Oh, the reason because even in computer layout, we are saying user selected. Instead of that, we should be saying computer selected. Click on any of the icon and here we see that first is rock and second is paper. And it is visually represented so we can understand that this one is clicked. So in this way, we were able to complete the user event on these icons and generate a random icon for computer. Next part is declaring the winner. Here we'll display the message based on what user clicked on and what computer generated. So for that, we have a div with class of result. We'll select this element so we can update the message here and store it into a variable result. Now we need to define a function getWinner that will accept user selected and the computer selected. We'll just log this message console.log user and computer. So before that, what we need to do is as soon as you click on any of the icon, the first thing we need to do is to update our user selected, generate the computer selected, re-render the whole UI. Along with that, we also need to do is to get the winner, because if we get the result, we have to update it. So we'll call this function getWinner, and that we will call with two different values, that is user selected and computer selected. You can directly access them here from here itself, but that is not considered to be a good practice. The best way to do it is like your function should accept the parameter you should work on. So let's refresh this, click on it, and we can see both are selected rock. So it is working. Now we need to do is handle the three conditions. The first is the condition of a tie. The second one is user wins. Third one is computer wins. So for tie, it's the simplest one. Whenever the condition user.name is equal to computer.name, then we just need to update the message of result to result.innerText should be equal to it's a tie. This is the way you will handle tie. Let's see if it is working or not. We'll click on the icon multiple times. Oh, for the first time only we can see it here. And when we are clicking on it multiple times, we can see the user selected is rock, the computer generated is rock, and here it is updating the message it's a tie. So this one is working. Let's move on to the next one of deciding how user wins. So we'll say else if, and we'll put the condition here. Now let's try to think how we are putting the condition. Say for example, so user selected rock and computer generated Caesar. So here we understand that rock will beat Caesar. So obviously user should win. So how we can put it there? So we have two variable names. One is user selected and another is computer selected. So if user selected dot beats, that is Caesar, is equivalent of computer selected dot name, then in that case user should be winning, right? So how we are going to implement that is we'll say user dot beats, user selected is rock, which has a property bits is Caesar, that is equivalent to scissor name, then in that case user wins. So we'll say if that is equal to computer dot name, we have to update the message user wins, and we'll add an emoji. Similarly, in the other condition, we'll just go ahead and write else, because if both the cases are not same, computer is going to win. So we'll say computer wins. So this is the algorithm that we have written. Let's go ahead and test it. So in the starting, it is saying you won. Oh, it's coming from HTML. We have to delete this part. So we deleted this part, refresh it, nothing is visible. You click on any of the icon and you can see both are same, so it's a tie. Click on it again, it's a tie again, and when we click on it, we have rock, and here we have paper, and because paper can hide rock, computer wins. In other cases, you click on others, user wins. So it is working properly. So in this way, we are able to complete this game. If you want to add a new feature, that is reset game, you can add an icon here, clicking on which you will have to reset the values of user selected and computer selected, and it will reset the game. Let's do it right now. So what I'll do is I'll add a button and we'll call it reset. So let's select this button in our JavaScript. We'll say let reset is equal to query selector button. And what we need to do here is add event listener, reset.add event listener. Whenever click happens on that, you need to reset this. And here all we need to do is to change the value of user selected to empty object. Similarly, we just need to do computer selected to empty object. And as soon as you click on reset, we also have to re-render the UI by calling this function here. Along with that, we'll call this function. Refresh, click on it, click on reset, and we can see it goes back. So a bit of refactoring that we can do is these two functions we are calling again and again. So why not create a function, call it re-render, and that function all it does is call these two functions. And instead of calling these two functions, let's call re-render. Same thing here inside it. Save it. Let's check the whole game again. So in the starting, you don't see anything. We have a reset button. We click on any of the icon and we can see computer wins. You click on others, user wins. Sometimes it will be a tie. You click on reset, it will reset. An add-on would be adding score to it. Just go try adding score to it and that will be much more fun. So in this way, we completed our game rock, paper, scissors